Right, so let's look at an example of a case which could have turned into a death in custody but thankfully didn't. So the circumstances around this scenario then, we have a person who is involved in a fight outside a nightclub. It's believed that they had been intoxicated, believed definitely alcohol, potentially also drugs, but some form of intoxication. They've received several punches to the head and face area, and one of which has burst the nose as well, so we know they've had some head impacts. This person then has gone to the floor and a fight has continued on the floor prior to the police arriving. When the police arrive, the person then is arrested, so the detainee then starts to lose full consciousness and ends up being momentarily unconscious and not responsive, to the point that the police then declare a medical emergency, request an ambulance and put the person into a recovery position. So, you know, all so far so good. But then quite quickly the person seems to come around, and so the officers automatically assume that the lack of full consciousness was purely down to intoxication and cancel the ambulance. The officers decide that he doesn't need to go to hospital to be checked, and they decide that he can go straight to custody and be dealt with there by the healthcare professional. Also then, en route to police custody, the detainee now starts throwing up in the back of the van, but the officers believe that he's deliberately thrown up in the back of the van, and also then arrest on suspicion of criminal damage for the vomiting in the van. Now here we've got to think about the fact that we know through witnesses that this person has received multiple trauma impacts to the head face area, so we've got a risk factor, so the red flags for head injury. Any head injury with a lack of full consciousness must be dealt with as a medical emergency. On top of that then we've got any period of vomiting, particularly more than one vomit. So we've got multiple vomits on the way to the police station as well. So in this scenario example, and if we compare this to other scenarios that are happening around the UK as well, if a person has received trauma impacts, there's been any loss in full consciousness, and or there's multiple vomiting going on as well, this person must be dealt with as a potential medical emergency, and they need to receive medical treatment, as in taken to the hospital to be checked there. But then always remember though that the hospital staff cannot authorise a person to be detained at police custody. So when they're brought back from the hospital, they must still be assessed by the healthcare professional, because the healthcare professional is combining the clinical function with the forensic function, where the hospital staff are just looking at the clinical function. Does this person need admitted to a ward? They don't have the authority under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act to authorise detention in custody. So hopefully that's an example that lessons can be learned from. Thank you.